let's get rolling though. We've got a few topics and a few people here. If you would, just again, a reminder, drop your name into the meeting minutes, if you would. What else do we have? All of you that have been here before, I think all of you, let's see, is anyone new? Nope. Nope, which means that all of you are aware. If you don't put your name, I get to make one up for you. And I might not be feeling generous. I know Stephen is on the phone, I think, as well. So
yes, you do. Can you hold on a second, please?
Sure.
Hold on. Yes, I have Kubernetes on AWS and Azure and GCP.
Cool. Good. Okay, so hey, first topic that we have up is for Utkarsh. He's not here. Let's try to cover it without him. So, all right. So we've been adding filter support, more and more support for Envoy filters into Meshery. And the filter support to date has been, well, it's been about capturing the filter as a binary and then capturing specific configuration that, or I'm sorry, configuration that's specific to the filter and how it might run, which is good. But it's only part of the story. That more of the story has to deal with what applications to apply that filter to, what proxies to insert that filter into, if there's a chain of proxies, where does the filter that you're working with land in that chain? Questions like that, things like that. Is that filter compatible with that proxy? Things like that. And so there's an issue out there that identifies the need to capture more of this. Now, as we look at supporting Envoy filters in context of Istio, Istio has a number of, what's the right word? A number of objects, metadata, additional constructs, additional objects to track, metadata about those to track for an Envoy filter. And so they're broken down here, and there's a few of them. And so in each of those, there's more metadata to be captured. And so at this moment, I'm not sure, and maybe Soham, who's on the call, or Gaurav, can you guys tell me the current pattern components that we have, are they capturing this level of data? Do we have placeholders for this data?
Actually, right now in mesh map, at least, or what we have right now is filter is treated as any other workload. For example, Istio mesh or any virtual service or any other workload. So when we say about relationships of filters with either an Envoy filter or any other thing, such a relationship is not exactly captured. If you talk about these fields, I guess Utkarsh will be able to tell you more about these fields, because whatever is being returned from the adapter, all of these fields are populated. So if the adapter is basically returning a schema which has these fields, then we are capturing these fields.
Okay, can you confirm that for me? Can you look to see if Envoy config object match is coming from that workload descriptor, from that component?
Give me a moment. I'll do that.
Okay. Good.
It will take time. You can
sure.
move forward.
No problem. Okay, good. So coming back to that later. So the next topic that we had up is, so last time we met, we talked about, well, a little bit of the design in Meshery's UI for managing filters, and how some of how we manage filters is applicable to applications and patterns as well. And so Gaurav and Meghana, I think the two of you are maybe closest to this.
Yep. For the upload URL.
Well, for the file name and display name.
Yep. I was supposed to work on the file display name, but I was not able to do that. So because I was mainly focused on the delete feature. So and for the delete feature, Utkarsh has just pointed exactly what I wanted to have that feature, because we are using the similar kind of features in the performance as well. So that thing is totally configurable now. So yeah.
Okay, so the bulk. Okay, so wait, we're gonna switch up the update here. Let's see. So Gaurav, you're saying, hey, for on a related but separate topic, for bulk operations, that of deleting filters, that wasn't working yesterday in the UI, but is now as of a pull request that you have open.
No, I'll just update the changes in the pull request by tonight. So Utkarsh has pointed out the similar functionality that we are using in the performance UI.
Okay. And
so
then
I have to make changes and we'll update in the PR also.
okay. Well, nice, good. Level of confidence that you'll complete that today?
Yeah, definitely tonight.
Okay. Is that like quickly achievable for patterns and applications as well?
Yeah, for both of them as well.
Nice, that's great. Okay. For context, I'll try to pull up Meshri's UI so everyone has a kind of context as to what we're talking about. While we're talking about that, there's a couple of other updates. Like the thing I was just mentioning, common attributes of patterns, applications, and filters. And so that being the need to just have a display name and a file name shown. So Gaurav, you didn't work on that. Meghana, has this been on, I don't know if this has been on your, in your field of view or not.
I'm not sure about the common attributes part. I wasn't working on it.
Okay, not something you've been focused on. Okay, let me see if I can share a bit more. Good. So let me give context to this to make sure that everyone understands and someone's able to take action on it. So within lifecycle management of applications, filters, and patterns, all of those a user can upload those, each of them, as artifacts that Meshri then manages. Each of them can come from a file. Some of them can come from other places. So they have common needs about showing the name of the pattern, in this case, the name of the filter, the name of the, I'm sorry, I think I confused them, but the name of the pattern, name of the application. Good, so this is, right now it should be a display name, like a human-friendly name someone would give their pattern. If they imported it through a file though, that the location, the file name and the path to that file is captured. And it'd be nice to expose that as a common, like as another column, and do so across the other three. So Meghana, does that make sense now, what I'm referring to?
I actually missed what you said. What should be the column? Could you just, which
file
field?
name. File name.
You mentioned that I need to add another column. So it's the location of the file? Or?
Just the name, just the name of the file itself, with the extension on it, if it has an extension. And then like on hover, yeah, as a tooltip, you could show the full path.
Okay. And what will be the application name or the pattern name? Will that be given while uploading, or?
I don't know. It should be. I mean, like if we're not, then we should be asking for one. Optionally, if someone doesn't supply it, then an example here for patterns is that when someone is creating it using the visual designer, it'll by default be the display name will be untitled design. And so too can the same for an unnamed filter or an unnamed pattern. Is that we can.
I'm trying to understand the difference between the file name and the pattern name. Is the file name is just the uploaded file's name that we'll be mentioning, and in the pattern name or like filter name, application name, what should be the content of that?
Okay, let me give you an example. So see this Google document that I'm using. At the top, it says Wasm Filters Meeting.
Hmm?
The name of the display name for this document is Wasm Filters. It can be whatever I want it to be. And I can include weird letters and characters and stuff like this. So I could do something like Wasm Filter Meeting for 8/16/21. And normally, if you try to throw slashes into a file name, that's probably not going to fly, right, on most file systems. So that's a display name. And I bet you know what I'm going to do for a file name. Anyway, file name is Wasm-filters-meeting. Whatever. Okay. Does that help?
Yeah.
And then, so there's this thing called location. It's really like it's like the path, but the attribute, the metadata about a file or a pattern, you might see it called location. And so that an example there might be like this. Hopefully, okay. So since this is so long, if we do put it as a column, it's like, well, maybe we should just show the file name. And then on hover, or if they go into a modal like this or something, we could go ahead and like right here, give them the full path because there's a little bit of space to do that, something like that. Now, to your point about like, well, hey, if someone goes to import, like let's say I go to upload a pattern, I bet it just shows me a browser, a file system browser. So I would choose an applicable file that matches the that I can upload. And I might not find one quickly, but when I do, well, I wasn't afforded an opportunity to also give it a display name. In that case. We either need to make sure that the backend handler, the API that is being called, that it accounts for a null display name and auto generates or auto assigns a name.
Okay.
Which a lot of them do, and that's probably the best place to handle that is to just put that requirement on the endpoint. Other thoughts or questions on that one?
So we already do provide a display name. I mean, display name is already independent of the file name, and the handler already handles the fact that it will actually grab the display name from the pattern file itself. Not the file name, but rather if you would open pattern, there is always an attribute called name or field called name in the pattern. It will basically call that thing as Actually, this is, I guess this was generated using meshmap, so it bypassed that thing. But if you would actually upload it manually, then in that case, it hits a different endpoint and basically it extracts the name from the uploaded pattern file. This is actually an auto-generated file. That's why it has different name.
Yeah, some of these discrepancies aren't ideal. It's nice that what you said about the handler, the patterns handler specifically, intelligently sourcing the display name from the name inside the YAML file. That's nice, and provides a better experience than just untitled. What do you think? Should we take a note to reconcile the two? Like, should we enforce that as a mandatory thing that these match, or is that just a convenience operation that the endpoint will do? If there's no display name provided, go ahead and use the one that's in the file itself.
Actually, I think the behavior is different right now because meshmap chooses it to be different. So meshmap has the feature that you can name a file, and the default name there is untitled design or something. So that is why it's choosing that particular name, and that is why it has this particular name. But if you as a user are uploading from this particular UI from any using MeshCTL also, and you're providing a path, in that case you are not providing it a name, so it will automatically grab it. So the thing is, the difference in behavior is because meshmap or different clients are choosing that particular route. Or if they don't provide a custom name, then in that case, actually it will grab the name from the YAML itself.
Cool. Yeah, no, I understand that. And so having understood that, my question is, should we rectify, should we enforce that they must be the same, or should we leave it as is, where what we're essentially doing is saying, as a convenience operation, if the user doesn't separately specify a display name or that client, then instead of auto-generating one called untitled, it'll do what it's doing today, which is sourcing perhaps a more befitting name from the name field. It seems like in this case there's probably nothing to do, like that it's okay and it is valid that the display name here, like untitled design, doesn't necessarily, it doesn't mandatorily have to match the name inside the pattern, but that the endpoint that you were describing was really having that behavior as a to provide good UX where there wasn't any, in the event that there isn't a display name defined. Does that sound right? Does that align with the current behavior?
Yeah.
And kind of the train of thought as well about like that's okay. Like we don't need to enforce the two be the same.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Okay. Good. So, by the way, so off the top of your head, Soham, do you? Utkarsh, do you know? So certainly that's the case for the pattern endpoint. Do you know if that's the same for the other two? Someone uploads a filter. In this case, they may not have a YAML file to reference the name of, because it might just be a binary.
I'm not sure about the behavior of filters. I think the code is very similar, so I assume that they would behave the same.
Say it again.
Yeah, it is accepting the YAML.
Nice. Now, in the event that what we're actually uploading is a binary, though, for the filter, so who was just speaking? I missed it.
Yep, I was speaking. So we are currently supporting the YAMLs for the filters as well.
Cool. Which I think we're not enforcing it at the moment because, and maybe we won't enforce it, but when someone does upload a binary file and we're not able to parse that and pull out a name, Who can go confirm what the behavior is?
Yeah, I'm
Endpoint.
checking actually. I'm checking.
Okay. And we'll want to confirm for applications as well. All right. Good. Glad. Okay, so heading back up to the top while we're figuring out a couple of things. So Megan, I think so do you want to update on this upload by URL?
So I didn't do the special case for the GitHub part. I raised a PR related just uploading, but I'm not sure if I have done it right. So I'm just going through the reviews. So accordingly, I'll make the changes. And Utkarsh has been helping me too. So I'll work on the special case next. So that's pretty much it.
Nice. Yeah, no, this is good. I mean, from what I saw, I think if you end up removing the question mark.
yeah, I'll remove that.
Well,
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. You might be done after that, I guess is what I was thinking. There's some merge conflicts to address. But other than that, you'll be able to take the.
Okay. Yeah, I'll fix that.
You'll be able to take those over to patterns and applications. So good, that'd be great.
Mm.
And then yeah, you can leave the special case of GitHub for like a second PR. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice. All right. So the next topic that we'd had was with Avi, and I don't believe he's here, which might mean that this might be something for someone else to pick up because I don't think that he's done anything. So let's talk about this one. Again, this is in context of like managing filters. And actually this relates back to, I think the first question that I had, which is, I guess we're gonna get back to it now. So Soham, you were gonna check on whether or not those additional level of details for Envoy filters.
Yeah, we do capture everything that's there.
Okay, great. So there's actually like quite a bit of detail that the system is able to capture about filters, and it looks, a lot, not it looks a lot like it is the same, all this same info. Good. So this item here is talking about laying out the user experience for someone to fill in that information. So without Avi here, this probably goes to you. Because you'll be having to grok this and kind of design it in MeshMap as well.
So this is with regards to the form that pops up when we drop a filter, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
For now, yeah, it's already there. If you drop a filter onto any workload, you get a form which is consistent with all the other designs for any other tooltip forms that are there in MeshMap. So I'm not sure about what change in design should be there.
Yeah, do you happen to have, I wonder if this is gonna work for me. Good. All right, so if I'm in, let's take a look at that, because I suspect. So here, I don't see any filters. I don't see the component. I think that's going to bring me into that.
And do you have ST adapter running?
Yeah, if you don't have ST adapter running, you won't see any workloads.
Yeah, no, it should. All the adapters should be up and running.
Yep. All green.
Now, okay, so that's.
Yeah, if you go in MeshMap, then you'll see,
Yeah,
I guess, the filter.
I'm having it. There we go. Okay. I can restart in case we've timed out here. But. Cool. So the thing is like there'll be a.
No, that's not the filter.
Oh, okay.
That's just a dummy component. They should be inside Istio components itself if you have loaded Meshri before running your adapter. Maybe you're not able to see the whole list of workloads because you have started adapters before starting Meshri itself.
Okay. Yep.
Like you should be like able to see all of the workloads over. Maybe restarting Meshri and then starting adapters after that would let you see them.
Cool. Almost done restarting. Okay, I am done restarting. The point being is that there's if you see all this data here, this is a lot of things to answer. Like, and if that's in just one big long tooltip.
Yeah, it's a pretty big tool.
Okay, so it sounds like these things are being shown in there. It's like, okay, let's start to identify how to break down that user experience, and that's what this is alluding to. Is like, like an initial suggestion is something like, take each of the sections that are here, if I can call them that, like the .apply to, .patch context, and put them as like into as a series of menu items in the same fashion that we might have menu items like this, these four. So
like we have traits and settings.
Yeah, right. Kind of, except I'm thinking more super tiny, like, because you're gonna have this many of them.
Mm-hmm.
That may be unwieldy. You might need you might be able to group these, like all, see how it's 1, 2, 3 for listener match. You might be able to just have these all in one group. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
You're not able to see them. Any idea, Utkarsh? Because they should be there. Like,
Yeah, probably Meshri adapter is the adapter when tries to reach out to Meshri server, it's not finding it because then basically the service name is different from what it is expecting it to be. That is, I think, the reason.
Okay.
Is it implicit deployment or?
It's running out of cluster on Docker.
Okay.
Dev. Oops. Okay, so that's for NSM. Yeah. All right, briefly. So some of you were on this weekend's bug hunt, I think.
Okay, I think I know the issue. The issue is that it must be trying. I know because I wrote the code. It must be trying to reach to Meshri, basically the DNS name Meshri, but the container name is Meshri_1. So probably it tries to reach, it fails, it tries again. Basically, it will try for 10 minutes and it will finally fail because it could not reach to Meshri_1. Or basically, it couldn't reach to Meshri. But then because the name of the container is actually Meshri_1. I think that's the issue.
Okay. It also said, I don't know if you can see this issue, this error message as well. I'll send it over.
says it could not create adapter instance.
No, I think it did create the adapter instance. It's no, yeah, right here. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll send that over. Okay, but anyway, the point is there's some refinement of that, what that user experience needs to be, and to the extent that it's done in those JSON schema React components, that your efforts in MeshMap might then benefit Mesher UI in terms of getting that laid out, refined.
Okay,
Right.
cool.
Okay. Next topic. Surya Shankar, are you on?
Yep, I am. So, so for the docs part, like what's going on right now is that I'm unable to like build the docs locally. Like it's giving me a broken output. And Piyush on Slack said that Santhan was already working on a like PR to fix it. So I'm kind of stuck without the docs being generated properly.
Okay, is Shayatan on? No, and Piyush isn't either. Okay. Okay, and when you submit the PR, do they build?
Like what's going on is that it's just taking the default swagger.yaml file right now. It's not building it from the like Go annotations.
Shayatan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, like I didn't get like what problem you are facing. Like in the current PR, I am actually solving the filter docs, but after that I will correct the workflow also. Actually, the Swagger workflow which was there previously was not working as it should be. Like now it will generate the it will update the swagger.yaml in both the places, like in the docs and in the helpers directory. But the problem is that whenever it's going to check the PR, it's failing. So I think I'm just going to fix that. Like it will be done by this Friday or someday. I think I will complete it by Friday, that PR fix. But then I think the workflow will be solved. But I
Yeah,
don't get.
other than the workflow, like when we are building it with the make swagger docs command, when we are building the swagger YAML from the annotations, the output is kind of broken. Like some of the responses which are already there, like they are kind of missing.
Yeah, actually, I figured it out. Like we have to, I just change the make file and have to write the end, and I can connect with you in Slack and tell you what the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so like then I can continue, like because without that, like I'm not able to like test what's going on right now.
Yeah, actually for that, I think the make file should be updated for the Swagger command.
Makes sense. Good. Okay, you guys will be collaborating then. That's great. Moving to the next topic. So there was discussion of a potential design spec for how sample filters are, well, maybe I shouldn't use the word sample, but how certain filters are pre-bundled and shipped as part of Meshery. And so that's an open need. Something that, so anyway, just we'll track it for potentially for next week to take a look at some thoughts on paper. Okay, I think that brings us back full circle. So I think there's maybe two last things to discuss. So one is just confirmation. Utkarsh, you were testing to see if the behavior of the filter endpoints and the application endpoint is the same with respect to?
Yeah, there is a minor difference. I'm not sure if it's minor. So the entire behavior is same, except that in filters, it now expects, so what you are uploading, it expects it to be binary and not YAML. You can upload YAML because it's just a string of byte. It's no longer being treated as YAML. The second thing is now unlike pattern, what pattern does is if you hit the pattern upload endpoint, it will grab the name from the YAML and basically call that particular file with the name that you actually called it. Basically, whatever name was inside the YAML. But because now filter is treating it as binary, it doesn't do that. It basically assigns it the name test filter. Yeah, basically these are the only two differences. So the thing is that unlike earlier, it's no longer expecting it to be YAML. It expects it to be binary. And the second thing is that the name is not dynamically generated. Rather, it's a same thing, test filter every time for whatever you actually upload. Application pattern is actually exactly same. So application is just pattern, and there is actually no other enforcements like that. The type has to be application. It's just you can upload basically any pattern there. And the name is generated exactly how pattern's name is generated.
Good deal. So Megan, just to circle back then and confirm for you, the application and pattern endpoints, those behave the same as previously described. For the filter endpoint, we might need to open up a backend change to allow a client to specify a display name, if I read that. Nice. So is there anyone on the call that wants to take that on? An update to the filter resource in Golang?
Is it a beginner-friendly issue? Like, if it is, then I'd like to give it a try.
Actually, I think the support is partially there. So if the UI will choose to provide a name, then backend is going to respect that. It will not assign test filter name automatically. It does so only if it sees that you didn't provide any name. So I think what we can do is from the UI side only we can handle it. That is, you can ask the user for the name, provide that to the endpoint. Basically, in the post request, you can provide that, and the backend is going to respect that.
For patterns and applications, I think we're like.
No, actually, I'm talking about filter. So patterns behavior is same, but patterns is more dynamic. Filter is not that dynamic, but still it's going to respect that if you provide it a name.
Okay. All right, crisis averted, or like, yeah, it only requires JavaScript changes. Megan, does that make sense? Cool. I think you said yes, so good. All right. So the last on the agenda is probably just talking to KK, maybe Pranav, on other items. So I think KK, I think we've yet to get your meat hooks synced into something, I think, at least on this call.
Yeah, Ali, I would be glad to learn something. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty newbie in this, but yeah, if I get some help, I would be pretty sure I can do something here.
Sure. And you're most comfortable with Golang or
JavaScript.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, well, I think we might have said this before, like there's a number of things to do. They haven't been designed yet. So not all of them are that easy to pick up. We just covered some of the easier ones that didn't require a design other than just a quick example. We need to get a few designs down. One thing though to prepare for though in advance of that is to like there needs to be more of an experience as to how it is that people deploy an application, for example. So if you go into life cycle, Well, so actually, here's one before we even get into anything complex is, if you're using the menu, you can't really tell what's a top level menu and what's a submenu. So KK, like it's a very easy first go is to put in bold these top level menu items. Just persistently bold, whether they're selected or not. That will help offset them a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll try my level best. Like I'll try to make sure like the things which are menus to be bold and the subtopics to be in the normal text so that it pops out. If I'm not wrong, that is what you meant, right?
Yeah, that's right. If you're
Okay.
successful there, like the kind of a next step is probably like that's good and that's helpful. It helps offset. I don't know if anyone can tell, but there's a slight indentation that happens already
After life cycle, yeah.
and here as well. It's good, but it's so subtle that it's like, you know, so the bolding will help offset. The other thing that then subsequent to this would be that there's 1, 2, 3 sub-menu items under here, for example, and there's like 8 or so under here. Well, you see the highlight that you get when you hover? That's great. But it would actually be a lot more obvious to users if each of these sub-menu items, each of these 3 actually had a lighter background to start with. Like when this expands, they all have a lighter background. It would become really obvious then the difference between top level and sub-menu items. We still desire to have an on hover effect. So you'll have to, you know, pick a shade that's, you know, not the same.
I guess another suggestion would be that to sort of future-proof it as well, the shade shouldn't be too light, to begin with, so that if there is a sub-menu within the sub-menu item, then you can just keep setting it at an increment lower. And that would solve your highlighting issue as well, I guess. So just a smidge lighter would be helpful. And yeah, so I guess can I just go ahead and ask a question? So in 3 weeks I'm gone, like there's been a metric load of changes, and I'm seeing this, and it's completely new. It's like I'm starting over again. So I just wanted to sort of get to know what is functional, what works, and where the main work is lying. So just a quick recap as to what the state of the project is.
Someone else want to give that update? Wow, I can't believe I'm the only one capable of giving that update. That's not good. All right, so over the last few weeks, some of the more significant enhancements have been, well, some of them have been in the client, the plugin mesh map, the ability to drag and drop over an Envoy filter, and then have a subsequent tooltip pop up asking the user to populate additional configuration, not filter specific configuration, not like that filters config, that string, but rather the service mesh configuration for where to deploy the filter and what configuration to apply to it. That's actually part and parcel to the same conversation we were just having about trying to get that same user experience in the UI, in the Mesher UI, which is when someone goes into the table today and they want to go to apply the filter, deploy the filter, they would need to answer those same questions. That's not there. There is a lot.
Are you able to deploy the filter successfully?
Yep.
Yay. I'm sorry, Utkarsh, I scene zoned you. I had a major exam the next day, so.
No, actually, Rudraksh actually helped there. No issues.
Okay. Okay.
And yep, it kind of, like in the simplest of way, I think we can deploy the filter. But without, so right now, Utkarsh, have we ever tried capturing a bunch of other configuration for the other attributes?
Yeah, so in terms of patterns, so if you use patterns for deploying, you can deploy any filter, provided you are running Istio version 1.9.7 in later. So, and you can customize it as much as you want. You can give it any configuration, filter specific configuration or any Istio specific configuration. You can do that, provided you are running 1.9.7 in later.
Yeah, there's been some other enhancements around this. So shortly, Meghna will have the ability to upload a filter by URL from the UI, not just from the command line client. That's good.
So where's the majority of the work left then?
One of them is, well, when Meshri is shipped today, it doesn't have any filters preloaded and available. It's like, well, there's the Wasm filters repo that has, has the collection that you're familiar with. And those are, some of those are just generally, helpful in general. That's that's something that needs to be considered. Is like.
So just a thought about that would be that so in your filters page, you do have like a drop down where you can create sort of like an overall packaging the configuration along with the binary. So over there, could we just give like a drop down, which basically acts as a link to one of those URLs? So then, if you want to package, you won't have to necessarily, package it along with the application itself, but rather than that, we just have that URL pop up in the drop down, and we can then update it as and when. So it'll be some sort of an API call it'll make, saying, okay, what are the available packages that are being shipped, and it'll just pull it and populate the drop down, just as a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, like, like to the extent that if someone deploys Meshri and they have 0 filters to start with, that there might be a built-in reference to that repo to where they could then.
Right. So you have the, like you said, right? You have a place where you can enter the URL to get the filter package. So why not just take that and then have like a sort of default dropdown, and that way it'll just have to make an API call, and we don't even have to rely on packaging it. So that could work out.
Yeah. Like I think that unto its own, like it stands, or that will work. Okay, and that's a healthy step forward. It's good for the user. They get value out of the box. And subsequent to that, you might expand it to say, okay, well, also if you have a repo, an additional one that you'd like for Meshri to reach out to and pull from, maybe to do that. And it'd be, the same functionality, just a different repo. We discussed in the past that maybe those are private repos. And so if someone has authed and provided Meshri access, auth with their GitHub ID, then Meshri can go retrieve those. So Meghna, as we talk about like the upload by URL and how github.com it can be a special case. That's kind of what is meant by that, is if is if someone has authenticated using their GitHub profile, that's when things can start to change. Like if they haven't, Meshery can still pull from github.com. It's just, it won't be using any special credentials. It'll just be another API or another HTTP endpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, so Pranav, I think long term, I think we intend to have, or hopefully even more than what you'd said. What you'd said is directionally aligned, like and that's a good first step. It's a healthy step to getting to like, hey, what does this thing do for me? I'm just seeing a bunch of empty tables. It doesn't do anything. Well, no, here's a bunch of stuff out of the box. Here's patterns out of the box. So there's a patterns repo as well for service mesh patterns. So to the same point is like, well, what patterns do I have? It's like, well, not, depending if you first signed in, it's like nothing. Great. Where's the beef? Where's the meat? And so good. Now, what happens if, and I think that's fine. We can take that approach and it works and it's good. For certain deployments, people will say, well, hold on, actually, this is an air-gapped deployment, or this is or we don't let people willy-nilly reach out to grab from repos. And so those users might like to sanctify what patterns or what filters are loaded. So, okay, well, one of the next steps would be, okay, well, what if the Meshery that they download and install has the same collection of filters and the same collection of patterns packaged, bundled inside of the Meshery server image, or maybe the Meshery, or maybe a specific adapter if the pattern or the filters is service mesh specific. I think in both cases for patterns, filters, and actually for applications as well, these three, the goal is that inevitably they won't work across all meshes, but the goal is, I mean, for filters anyway, the goal is that they'll work across, the same filter will work across many, so maybe.
So all these entries are basically, I guess, inside the database, right? That's running.
Yeah.
So then, okay, I guess one flag or something like that would make sense in that case, because if it's a database, you won't need to pull it from a separate, what do you say,
repo
source and then integrate it. So I guess that's a little more long term, the providing that air gap functionality. I guess the first step would be to allow people to have that option of the standard feature set. Okay.
Yeah. Because in the secondary option about air gap things, yeah, I mean, I was going to say it would build off of the first one, but maybe that first step makes a lot of sense. It's what most people are deploying. They have an internet connection.
So that actually kind of brings up another thing. So what about like security and Meshery? So is that like a priority as of now? I guess it's kind of reaching the stage where we need to start considering that as well. Not necessarily for just filters, but like in general with the way things are accessed. So yeah.
So there's kind of two yes is the answer, and I think like just as a refresher for me even is in terms of roadmap. So we're hopefully working toward making this this release here. Hopefully, I think we've got most of these things. We actually don't have this. But we have most of these. We have basic CRUD on these things, which is good. We need, we're going to need more, but yeah, so yeah, it was like a couple of releases for now to get to authorization, it might be that we need to pull that in a little closer. Part of the idea here, the concept is that there need to be hooks inside of Meshry server and Meshry UI that providers can use to identify whether or not a given user should be allowed to import a new filter or connect to a repo or just this litany of things. So within Meshry server, within every API endpoint, each of those operations, each of those resources and the operations that you can perform on them need to have a key, a unique identifier assigned, so that then you can form a key chain, and so that forms that's like a permission or basically it's a key that says if you have this key that says that's specifically assigned to import a filter, that key fits that operation, you can do it. In general, if maybe you're just you're a user, you have a key for importing a filter, a key for deploying it. You have a key for these importing a pattern, importing a. Maybe you don't have the key to delete them, and so anyway, the key chain that you're handed, which is a collection of keys, like the key chain that you're handed as a user when you sign in, might be for a certain role, like the user role versus the admin role, and so. Yeah, it gets into a fairly long conversation about the design by which some of it's fairly straightforward, like laying out what roles and what keys there are. Basically, anywhere you see an input field or you have a button to click, ideally, every single one of those has a key, so that you can be really granular about whether or not an individual is allowed to do something on that entity. And ideally, it's not just you want it enforced by the back end, but you also want to have a dynamic user experience where the JavaScript is also understanding what's appropriate to show to the user and what's not.
So do you think a framework for handling security, like an external framework, would be better? Because I guess those exist, like there's like something like, I guess the equivalent of Keystone that, you can separately deploy, which is going to be sitting there handling all your stuff. And that sort of provides a more universal security management thing, right? So instead of sitting and going at it from scratch, just seeing the requirements of something that's like an industry standard and then implementing whatever security features according to that would be a better bet, right?
Yeah, we talked about that, and we've called out some specific ones, and we're kind of waiting to go research those. So there is one that's written in Rust that is of interest, which so happens to fall right toward your question and kind of in your lap in terms of it being in Rust. I'll point it out to you. It's a good thing to research. It's a little bit of the project is getting older, it's still young, but a key point to what we want to try to achieve, is definitely we want to use a different framework, a pre-existing framework if we can. One thing we want to achieve is the stuff that I just described, good, but also for it to be extensible, which is to say that authorization, identity.
You can have your own policies and your own, okay, fine.
But they also need to be dynamically, like sure, a user can deploy Meshry and they can go in and say, okay, well, there's this set of default policies and set of default roles. I'm going to rename them and create my own, and good, we want that. But also, when largely to date anyway, identity, authentication, authorization, these are all in the domain of the provider, meaning the provider authorization should be extensible such that the provider can bring their own predefined roles and groups. They have to do so in accordance with the framework that Meshry is using, which we don't have yet. But, so when we look at that framework, when we evaluate it, we want to do so in context of providing an out-of-the-box experience that is fairly well designed, has default roles and things like that, but but then it's extensible as well. Good, I'm glad you brought that up because that actually gives us something to put in front of you. I think you'll like it. That'll be interesting. Well, hey, we're at time. Anybody have anything else? Nice. Okay. Thanks all for coming. Nice to see everybody. See you. See some of you tomorrow. Bye. Bye, guys. Bye all.